Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Your Financial Compass, the show dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio are two members from Bulman Wealth Group. We have financial advisors Scott and Shawn. We're so glad you're joining us today. We are going to be discussing the important subject of when should you file for Social Security benefits. If you've ever wondered or asked yourself that question, when is the optimal time for you, you're not going to want to miss today's show. Scott, Shawn, always a joy to be with you. And I know that something kind of funny happened this week, and we were going to share that with our viewers, so I'll let you take it from here.
So we were at an event the other night that had some other advisors from around the country, and we were introduced. And a gentleman from Florida, like, hey, it's Shawn and Scott. He's like, oh, is this a father-son team? So Shawn from now on is my dad. He's not really my dad, but he is, for all you guys know watching at home.
And son, I have a long list of chores.
Nice.
I have a long list of chores at home that you have not been doing.
Yeah, never mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I said at the beginning when we were talking about this, I think it's a huge compliment to both of you. Two very handsome, wonderful people. So no wonder they thought y'all were related.
Yep, and I always joke, if I have Shawn's hair when I'm his age, because he's 87, I'll be happy.
Speaking of Social Security.
He's at that age now, actually. So.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's always a good time with you guys. And I know that this subject of Social Security can sometimes feel a little bit like wah, right? But it's important. It is such an important decision and part of your overall financial plan, knowing when is the best time for you to claim your Social Security benefits. And so much goes into this. And so before we dive into the discussion, I think it's important just to put everyone on the same page. You know, there's a lot of talk about maximizing Social Security benefits. We're going to be addressing, is that really the right course of action today? But it's important for people to understand the different ages and kind of what that means. We know there's over 567 mathematical combinations and calculations.
Which we'll go through about 500 of them
one by
today.
one right now.
Yeah.
But let's just give a brief overview so our viewers understand kind of some of the key ages and what that might mean for them.
All right, folks, if you're not on the edge of your seat, you will be now. So first off, the earliest age, as of now, as of the way the rules stand now, the earliest age that you can start Social Security is when you hit 62, which, believe it or not, Shawn is at this year. I don't know that he's going to file yet, but all jokes aside, he's there. So now he can start asking himself that question. But the point is, if you start at 62, you are penalized in a sense because you're only going to get about a 30% reduction from what amount? Well, the 100% amount is when you reach what's called your full retirement age, or FRA. So let's just use an example. If you were born in 1960 or later, then your full retirement age is 67. So that's when you're entitled to 100% of your benefit. So if you start at 62, you're going to get about 70% of that age 67 benefit. So you can start it earlier, and there's some reasons why you would, which we'll talk about later, but you are giving up some of the benefit. Then between 67 and 70, each year that we wait, your benefit goes up by 8%. So
every year.
Every year. So there's very few guarantees in the financial realm. That is one, as of right now, is guaranteed to increase by that amount. You hit the ceiling at age 70. You wouldn't start Social Security after that, but at age 70, you're going to get 124% of your age 67 amount. Today's fun fact on top of that, though, no one really waits. Less than 10% of people wait to 70.
Yes,
so
I was going to bring that up because, you know, clearly if people are concerned about running out of money and they want to know that they're getting the maximum amount they possibly can from Social Security, well, the answer is simple. You wait until age 70 to claim your Social Security benefit. But despite those increases and advantages, this is according to the Congressional Research Service, less than 10%, as Scott said, of retirees wait until age 70 to claim their benefits. And despite getting less, 30% of retirees go ahead and claim their benefits at age 62. Why do you think that is?
You mentioned it earlier, Kristen, the number one fear of retirees, people approaching retirement, is outliving their money.
Yes.
And so the Social Security decision, when to take it, becomes central to that fear of not outliving their money. And there's mathematical decisions to make, and Scott was touching on some of those just pure, wet ages and the reductions. So there's the mathematical side, and then there's the emotional side and the quality of life side. And believe it or not, we get into conversations with people about their health, their family's health. Is there longevity in the family? How long did your parents live? Are they still alive?
Right.
Those are really important qualitative decisions or factors that go into the decision, even more than the mathematical decision.
Yeah.
And it's just fraught with emotion. And I think being able to sit down with us to look at the entire picture, factor in everything else they have going on in their financial life, helps people really make the decision that's right for them.
Right, yes. It's interesting because there's also that question of, will Social Security be there for me? I think that's also driving people to claim it maybe earlier than they should. And the other issue is if you claim it before your full retirement age and you're still working and you make over a certain threshold of income, which is pretty low, right? We're talking
$22,320.
There you go. You have it down, and for a married couple, it's about $44,000, right?
Well, it goes per person, so it's dependent on the individual. So if the husband or wife is earning more than that, then you're essentially giving back 50 cents on the dollar, or $1 for every $2 you earn, you're penalized. So don't wait. So don't work and collect. This is only if you're younger than full retirement age, which in most instances is 67.
Right.
So sometimes people come in and say, I'm going to double dip. I've been paying into it.
It doesn't work that way.
Don't.
Right.
Yeah, don't. Wait until you're done.
Or even the factor of, well, I'm still working. I'll take Social Security now at 62. I'll pay the taxes and I'll invest it. That still often doesn't work out if they're still working.
Yeah, the penalty alone, like you said, like we were saying, you're giving up $1 for every $2 you earn. Let alone the taxes. It's just it. And then the other thing with that though is if you have reached full retirement age at 67. You can still work. You can make $1 million a year if you wanted, and then get your benefits. So
and not get the penalty, right?
Yes, there's so much nuance to it, as you said. 500,000 different rules. 567, I think you said.
Yeah.
Well, no one's going to know them all.
No.
Let's try to figure out what makes sense. And there's no one thing to mention, Kristen. We'll always say this: we'll never know the exact time to take it because we don't know when you're going to die.
Right. If we all knew our
Yeah.
last day on Earth, that would make this decision a lot easier. We don't know, so but you have to go with what you know. And to your point, Shawn, there's so many personal factors that far outweigh the math. I thought this research was interesting too. This is according to research by JP Morgan Asset Management. Nearly 70% of workers expect to retire at age 65 or older, but only 34% of retirees manage to work that long. Now, why was that? Well, among those who retired earlier than planned, nearly 1/3 cited health problems or disabilities. 23% cited corporate downsizing. We know a lot of people are dealing with unexpected layoffs. And 13% said that they retired early to either take care of an ailing spouse or an aging family member. So sometimes the best laid plans with these things, that's why so many personal factors can outweigh the math of when's the optimal time for you to claim, because maybe it would make sense for you to take it sooner if you have to stop working at whatever point during that decade, right?
That's right. Yeah. And a lot of people think about, well, if I start taking it, if I take it at 62 and get a much lower payment, at what age is the break even? I would have been better off delaying. So the break even, you hear that a lot. It's the age in which getting a larger paycheck, larger check from Social Security for a shorter period of time is in your benefit. And there's some numbers here that help people. If you don't expect to live past age 77, then you'd want to start taking at 62. If you expect to live beyond age 77, then perhaps the full retirement age, 67, is the right age for you. And of course, if you expect to live beyond age 81, then waiting until age 70 is in your best interest. But Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Right?
There's a lot of moving parts.
And the
to
other
it.
final comment, I know we're going to wrap up before we go to break, but this idea of life expectancy, these tables are based on life expectancies of people who are born today. But if you reach age 62 today, your life expectancy is 80 years old. So you've got 20 years of living if you've reached the age of 62. So the numbers are kind of in your favor to delay as long as you can.
Yeah, gosh, so much goes into this. I know this is something that you talk through with folks, and a lot of people maybe aren't counting on Social Security to be their sole source of retirement income, right? It's supposed to be a supplement and a safety net. That being said, it's still an important piece of someone's overall retirement income plan. So if folks out there watching today have questions about the optimal time for them to claim their Social Security benefit, how would you be able to help them navigate through that?
The easiest thing to think is you don't need to know all of this on your own. So take a breath. You've probably forgotten half of what we've already explained today. So the best way is you can call the number below, you can scan the QR code, and just set up a conversation. You're going to talk to someone at our office. It might set up a meeting with Shawn or I or one of our advisors, and we can talk further. If that's your concern, Social Security, maybe your concern is taxes, anything in the financial realm that's a concern it's something we can discuss. We call it our Financial Compass Review. It's a complimentary thing. So call the number. It cannot hurt because you'll probably learn something, and who knows where that'll lead us. But it starts with a conversation. Just call that number below.
Awesome. Scott, Shawn, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is 888-970-4685. As Scott said, this is completely complimentary, and you're going to be able to schedule a time to come in for that complimentary Financial Compass Review. Or if you'd rather connect online, if you simply pull out your smartphone, you can open up the camera app, just point, click, and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Bulman Wealth Group will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary Financial Compass Review that way as well. When we come back, we're going to be diving into some more specific strategies to answer the question of when is the best time for you to possibly claim your Social Security benefit. Stay with us.
I became a financial advisor coming out of the tough times of the tech bubble in the late 90s, early 2000s. Moved to California, uprooted my life, changed everything, and then 9/11 happened the first week in this industry. I was prepared already to help people from tough times coming out of the tech bubble, but what we didn't expect is there were 3 years in a row when I started of the market dropping. That really impacted my whole career. It crafted and created how we manage money. We don't want our clients to ever lose like that, and so everything we do is built on protection. The goal of our practice and the people that we meet with is to remove the fear and uncertainty that we all face, and it goes back to those first years in the market.
I was a sportscaster on television. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. In TV, you bounce around, and went to Mississippi and worked at the NBC station there and covered, college football's big, NFL's big, all that stuff. And a guy I knew relatively well in a different state decided to get out of TV, and in this opportunity I always enjoyed finance and money, and it seemed really exciting. I like to communicate to folks and feel like I can communicate well. It was such a fresh, kind of different career than what I was used to that it was exciting.
We go into every meeting with no place to get. We're there to meet with you, to discover your needs, find out where you are at that point, and how we can help you build and craft that plan for the future.
Welcome back to Your Financial Compass. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Scott and Shawn from Bulman Wealth Group, and today we are tackling the big decision of when should you file for your Social Security benefit. If you're just tuning in and joining us, gosh, we had a jam-packed first segment. We were setting up a lot of the different rules and helping folks understand there's just so much that goes into this, and really this is why there's no substitute for sitting down in the financial planning environment to see when the optimal time is for you. One of the things that can be really challenging is it depends on your marital status, right? If you are married, you've got to take two different sets of benefits into consideration, but also there's some strategies that folks need to think through if they're divorced, as well as if they're single or if they're a widow or a widower. So we wanted to touch on some of those today. So first up, let's talk about married couples and how you guys help a married couple strategize with this important question.
Well, rarely do we find a married couple who are the same age, had the same income in their lifetime, have the same Social Security benefit. Usually there's an age difference, an income benefit difference, and that creates some opportunity to think about a careful strategy to maximize the benefit. For example, if one of the members of the married couple had lower earnings, it may make sense to take their benefit at 62 to allow the higher earning spouse, let those benefits continue to grow. From 67 to age 70, they're going to get an 8% annual increase in benefit. So there's a lot of nuanced strategies that we can explore with a married couple based on their history.
Yes, and then how could looking at maybe one spouse goes ahead and claims, the other one waits and delays to get even more, how can that especially be helpful when one spouse does pass away?
Well, in the instance Shawn was just discussing, say the higher income earner who's going to have the higher benefits, say they wait. Say they wait to 70, even if they're not going to live to 81, which of course we don't fully know that. But in this instance, if the higher benefit earner did wait and essentially didn't turn on their Social Security benefit to 70, if they do predecease the surviving spouse who had the smaller amount, well then the surviving spouse would then be able to collect that 100% of that higher amount. So the point is, again, we never know the time and when we're going to not be around anymore, but that is a strategy to consider, is having the higher income earner, higher benefit earner waiting to collect until 70. If they predecease, well then you reap the benefits of that higher amount when they pass, as you can take 100%. You don't collect both, by the way.
Right, you drop one of them.
A lot of times people think, oh, I get both. Unfortunately, no. Social Security would already be out of money if that were the case. So you get the higher of the two. So in this case, you'd get your widow's, the widow would receive that higher benefit.
Any other strategies specifically for our viewers who might be widows or widowers that they need to be aware of with this Social Security decision?
Yeah. Well, if you're a widow or widower, you could start claiming survivor benefits as early as age 60. Now, the benefit, just like in Social Security, your benefits reduce when you take it earlier. So, but you can start taking it at 60. It's going to be reduced by about 29%. But there's a strategy with your survivor benefit and your own personal benefit, as Scott was saying, and it may make sense in some cases to claim your own benefit, which could be lower than the survivor benefit, to allow that to grow, and then switch to the survivor benefit over time, which could be a higher benefit.
Right, so basically what you're kind of doing is you take the smaller of the two and you let the one that's going to be larger kind of grow in the background. And then at some point you would switch from the one you were on to the higher one. I think a lot of people aren't aware of that's even available.
No, and there used to be a lot more available. Unfortunately, that ship sailed many years ago. And what we always say, Kristen, is you don't have to know all this on your own, because there's so many intricacies to go through. So we always recommend just set up a time to call, reach out to our office, and we can have a discussion and look through each scenarios. And we can run, one of the cool things with the software, our planning software, is we can run different iterations, different scenarios, different what ifs to see if I collect at this age versus this age. We can actually show you the economic difference over your lifespan of waiting or starting earlier. Like if it makes a $10,000, $20,000 difference over your lifespan, whoop-de-doo. It could make hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference, and you can't tell me that won't influence your decision. There's a lot of different things to consider, and that's where we like to say math over emotions. Let's see what the math says. Maybe that tempers our emotions. We can make a more informed decision. And again, that's part of a financial plan, is wringing the most out of Social Security, because you paid into it for decades.
Yeah, for sure.
And the most frustrating thing is that the Social Security Administration is not going to reach out to you.
No.
And what we find is that in many cases, unfortunately, people get different answers from when they go to the Social Security office and wait for an hour.
Right.
Or
who
they
speak
call.
to on the phone, right?
They get different answers. And so I think because the Social Security can't advise based on the overall financial picture, we can.
And that's a myth too, is like, guess what? I'm just going to wait and ask them. You're going to ask them, and you're going to get silence on the other end of the line when you ask them a question, because as Shawn said, they're not going to give you advice. They cannot.
They are
give
not
you
allowed
advice.
to. And I'm so glad you guys are bringing this up. As you both know, I used to travel nationwide and present specifically on this subject of Social Security. And, you know, I think it's so helpful for folks to understand that the Social Security office is just doing their job, and their job is to give information. As Scott and Shawn have said, they are not allowed to give you individualized, personalized advice based on your unique situation. That level of planning that Scott was just detailing for you, the only way you're going to be able to get that is by coming in and meeting with someone like the team of Bulman Wealth Group, and it starts with getting that financial compass review. So if you would like to see what that math could look like for you, some of these different combinations, permutations, and how you can optimize your Social Security benefits, we encourage you, don't wait. Pick up the phone, call the number you see on the bottom of your screen today, which is 888-970-4685. Or again, you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Don't go anywhere. We've got some more strategies to share with you, especially what if you have gone through a divorce? Stay with us to find out what Scott and Shawn have to say about that scenario right after this.
Successful retirement to me is someone who doesn't have to worry about where their next paycheck's going to come from, where the income's going to come from. Are they going to run out of income? Are they going to run out of money? Are they going to meet their financial goals with respect to maybe they want to leave money to their children? Maybe they want to leave money to a philanthropy or a university.
Being able to wake up and know the day's an open slate and not having to worry about things. Or say someone's going on a trip with family, they're going to the beach, and if the headline says, the market's down again or something, they're not concerned. Bulman Wealth has my back here. We've got a plan in place. My portfolio is set up in a way that concern is not there.
All the pieces fit together like a puzzle. When that all fits together and you can see the peace of mind that gives families, that is a successful retirement. Did you know your retirement isn't entirely yours? That's right. Your traditional 401k, IRA, or pension is actually shared with the IRS. And when it's time to withdraw, they'll be waiting for their cut in taxes. To find out how much you might owe, try our easy-to-use tax calculator. Just scan the QR code or visit BulmanTaxBill.com.
Welcome back to Your Financial Compass, where today we are addressing the question of when should you file for your Social Security benefit. If you're just tuning in and joining us, in the last segment we shared some important strategies for married couples to think through. We've also talked about for widows and widowers, some of the strategies that you might want to consider with claiming your benefit. Let's now talk a little bit about folks who are divorced. And I guess we want to set this up in two different ways. One is, let's say someone was divorced, but their ex-spouse is actually already deceased. What strategies do they need to be aware of regarding Social Security?
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people really realize this, but if you're divorced and your former spouse has passed away, you are eligible for survivor benefits. As long as that marriage lasted for 10 years or more, and you are over 60 before you start claiming survivor benefits. Now, if you remarry, you need to remarry after age 60, and then you still are eligible for survivor benefits. So again, you could be a widower at age 60. You could remarry and get the survivor benefits on your former spouse's benefits. So if you're madly in love and you're 59 and a half, may make sense to wait 6 months before you get married.
Wait to have that wedding,
after you're
right?
60
If
years
there's
old,
anything you take away from today's show, let that be.
But in all seriousness, I mean, when I used to present on that, we would kind of all have a good laugh with some love advice for you here too. But that's an important point, because otherwise you could lose that benefit. All right, now what if you're divorced, but your ex-spouse is still alive? This is something else a lot of people aren't aware of.
Is this where I'm supposed to give love advice answers or like Social Security answers?
Social Security, we'll stick with that,
got
yes.
it. So in that instance, it still falls under the realm of a spousal benefit, which is 50%. So let's unpack what that means. Say you're divorced and you're not remarried, you're 62 or older, and you were married to your ex-spouse for 10 or more years. If that's the case, if half of their benefit is more than your full benefit, you can collect. It doesn't affect their benefit as much as you might want it to.
Well, they won't have any idea.
They won't even have an idea. Like Shawn has 4 ex-wives. They were all married 10 years, and they're all collecting. I'm kidding.
No, but I bring that up because sometimes folks are concerned. They don't want to. Maybe they're not on good terms with their ex, right? And they don't want to create an issue. Guess what? Your ex is never going to know that you're collecting off their record. So that's an important thing to point out.
Yeah. And again, there's a nuance to it. Like we said, you can't be remarried. 62 or older. If you started, say, at 63, you still fall under that penalty of starting it earlier than your full retirement age. So that doesn't mean you're going to get 50%. You might get closer to like 37, 38. So again, you don't have to know all this. That's why you call the number. We start to have discussions. We can look at your Social Security statements and walk you through the different things. So it's a lot to unpack, obviously.
Yes. Well, one more category of folks are friends who are single, who have not lost a spouse, and who have not been through a divorce. A lot of people never get married. So anything that folks in that category need to be aware of regarding their Social Security benefit?
Well, they have a lot more money if they didn't get divorced, but
love advice all show long from Ann Landers, Shawn.
They have a lot of choices, right? And that's where, it doesn't mean they don't need planning. And we go deeply into planning for our single clients as much as our widower and our married clients. But it becomes a little clean cut. If they don't need the money, it makes sense to wait until their full retirement age of 67.
Yeah, or maybe to possibly even wait till 70.
Yeah,
right?
Or just enjoy life and do the travel, the things you want to do. So we go as deep into the planning and understanding the full financial picture and give that advice on the best time to take Social Security for our single clients too.
For sure. Well, wow, we have covered so much ground today, but I'm also fully aware that we have just scratched the tip of the iceberg. And I'm sure a lot of heads are reeling right now. You might not have realized that so much goes into this important decision. It's not just so easy as, oh, I'm this age, so I'm going to, turn it on at this point. Anything else you want to leave our viewers with on this conversation that we've had?
We touched on this earlier. I want to bring it up again because it does get lost in the weeds. Is if you're not your full retirement age, which in most cases is 67, if you're under 67 and still working, earning more than $22,000, $22,320, don't start your Social Security. Because if you're earning over that threshold, which you probably are, 50%, or essentially $1 for every $2 you earn in Social Security, you're penalized $1. So essentially it's a 50% penalty. To me, in my opinion, that's not worth it. So please be aware of, I'm just going to start it and invest that money because I don't need it. Well, Uncle Sam needs it too, and they're going to be upset. So wait until your full retirement age if you're still working.
And gosh, this Social Security piece is just one small piece of that overall retirement puzzle that you put together for folks. So I'm excited for more folks to connect with you as a result of today's show. So Scott, Shawn, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, you don't have to go it alone. We know that a lot of this might be new to you. It's not new to the team of Bulman Wealth Group. This is what they do day in and day out for folks, and they would love to help and serve you by offering you that complimentary financial compass review. 888-970-4685 is the number to call. We'll see you next time here on Your Financial Compass.